Hi there everybody, it's Ashley with you for this Saturday showcase featuring Botanical Bounty stamp set. And Botanical Bounty is just that, all about botanicals. They are drawn with a watercolor type of effect already, so you can definitely stamp them just as they are and build your watercolor flower. But in this video I'm going to be sharing a little bit more of a tip on how to take it the next step ahead using watercolor with our Paper Trinks dye ink refill reinkers, and also just watercolor paper and just paintbrushes or the watercolor brush. So I'm going to be making this card right here. Okay, so here is my card here, as you can see, and I started with this flower, then I stamped that one, then I stamped that one, then I filled in here, and then I did the bloom. So we'll just kind of do the process along the way here. We won't need those just yet, but I will be stamping first. So first I have here my stamp set, which is Botanical Bounty. And these are the blooms. Okay, and then you also have all of the leaves on this side. So I don't have to use the same blooms, or I can use the same blooms. It really doesn't matter as much, but for the sake of this video, I'll use the same blooms here. And the same colors. So I use Lemon Tart. I might do a portrait card this time. I don't know. Let's see if I can do that. I'm going to go ahead and try to do all of my stamping first. I didn't do this the first time, but I think it's easier this way, so that's why I'm going to show you this way, and then do all the watercoloring separate. It makes the process, I think, go by a little bit faster. Stamp this one about right here. So I love this little rosy one here. Do a little bit darker of one here. I might change it up on this one because my card is a little bit longer, so I'm going to put this one up here. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the leaves, even though I wasn't planning on doing that first, but I think it's easier to do all this first. So I'm going to go ahead and do it first. I haven't used this one before, so I'm going to prime it a little bit. I might have to fill in a little later, so I'm going to go ahead and stop stamping and start watercoloring. Just going to make sure this is all cleaned out. When I made my first card, it was kind of in there. So I'm going to take this and just start watercoloring and blending in some of the ink that's already stamped on here. And it'll blend it in and fill it in very nicely. And you'll be able to see that, especially on this one where it was a little splotchy, but I appreciate the splotches on watercolor techniques because you can blend it in and add your own little depth and dimension. I'm going to take this is a very cheap, look how old this is, but I love this little tip on the end of this paintbrush. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to start I'm gonna get a little bit of lemon tart. I'm just gonna put it right here on my palette. I kind of am a mess when I paint. Don't really have to be in the actual little spot there. I don't mind it, but I'm gonna get you guys a little bit closer here so you can see. So I'm gonna start here at the base a little bit more, and I'm just gonna add some lemon tart and go around this part here. And there's a little bit too much water there. I'm gonna try to absorb it after I get my paintbrush gets dry. I'm gonna absorb a little bit of it there. And what I find is sometimes the paper gets a little bit too saturated with water, and then it starts to get kind of wants to bleed a little bit too much. And when that happens, I let it kind of sit and dry, and I move on to another flower, and then I come back. So you'll see me doing that in my process a little bit. And if you go outside the lines like I just did there, no one's gonna really know, okay? So it's perfectly fine. Okay, so if I want to go a little bit darker, I'm going to let that dry a little bit actually. I'm going to come over here to this other yellow flower since I have yellow on here. And I'm just going to start adding a little bit of detail, ever so carefully, just to the outer edges. And basically what I'm doing is just kind of simulating where I think the folds would be on this particular type of flower, which is kind of like a multi-tiered flower here. So I'm taking a different color ink. This is, I believe, this is Canyon Clay, I think. So it's a little bit darker, but I'm going to come back in and do a little bit more. The Canyon Clay. I'm going to go back kind of like around some of the areas where I had a little bit of lemon tart and just add a little bit more definition there. And this gives a little bit more depth. There's no really like right or wrong way to do this. It's kind of like have fun with it. Just play around. Okay, for the next one, for the pink flower here, I'm going to start there. And this is Lovely Lady, I believe, here that I'm putting on here. And what I'm going to do is just kind of add some details to the petals of the flower. I'm turning my paper around because it's just easier for me to do it that way, to see it all come to life there. So I think I'm pretty much done with that one. I'm pretty happy with the way that the details look on that particular petal. So I'm going to move on to this one here, and I'm just basically going to add some Raspberry Fizz ink, mostly to the base of this. And I'm just going to give it a little bit more dimension with the color. Because I want that color to be very true at the bottom of this flower. Adding a little bit more water here just to blend my strokes and make it so it's so not as harsh from the dark to the light. And that's the thing about watercolor, it's very forgiving. If you need to add some more, wait for it to dry a little bit, come back, add a little bit of darker hue. If you want it to blend and blend a little bit, add a little bit more water to your brush without the ink, and then you can do that. But as you can see, this flower has transformed a lot since what I did. I can keep playing with it if I wanted to and add a little bit more, but I think I'm kind of liking the way it's looking. So now I'm ready to come back to my yellow one here. I'm going to add a little bit of Harvest Gold, I guess. See how that looks. There we go. So I'm just kind of just adding to do brush strokes like this, because I think flowers have those kind of looks to them. And that's it. It's really easy to do. It's just a matter of when are you going to stop, you know? How much detail do you want to add, and you know, things like that. So I think I'm going to stop here for now. Doesn't mean I'm going to be done, but I think I'm going to stop for now. I'm going to take my watercolor brush and add a little bit more yellow to this one here. Feel like some of the yellow, it's kind of gone. If you get too much water on there, you just take a clean napkin or whatever, you can just get the excess right off. It'll pick it right up. I wanted to make sure I had enough yellow in there. I didn't want my yellow to kind of go away. Alright, so while I'm going to let that sit for a while, I'm going to think about where I want my leaves to go. Now, more leaves. What I think I'm going to do is freehand some of these as opposed to stamping them, which is very easy to do. So you can see I stamped this one and this one, so you'll see how I'm going to freehand this one. Make sure I blend it in there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for this one here. Now, of course, all these particular flowers aren't necessarily being branched from the same limb, but it's pretty nonetheless. Right, so I'm just gonna add one here. just going to freehand some extra leaves. I could stamp them. There are a couple in here I could stamp. But I'm just going to show you how you can freehand your own. To not be afraid to do that. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave my leaves alone now. I'm going to add the detail once it dries. While I wait to do that, I'm going to stamp the centers of some of these details here. I'm going to take Pure Poppy, I'm going to add it to this one here in the middle. Right here. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so next I'm going to take Canyon clay and use it here. And I could add the one I did there, but I'm just going to, I like this one here. Alright, so you can see that my flowers are coming to life. Now I just want to add some details to my leaves. And I can do the veins, you know, I can pretty much choose if I just want to add some shadowing. I'm doing a little bit of vein detail here. This is where I really like this brush because it gives me that little tip there. Let me see if you guys can see that. But that tiny tip right there is what I'm using to get the vein. So you can find a brush that has that. That's really cool when you're looking for little details like this. I kind of just want to add little dots of black here to my stamens of my flower. I just think that just makes it look so much prettier. And I also add, and my card is coming to life. The last thing I want to do is add a sentiment, of course. Add that there. And make sure that my paper's dry. And here's my finished card. And so you can see how that kind of went from kind of a regular stamped, but then some dimension and things like that. So there are just a few ways you can do that. Here is a portrait style, and then here's a landscape style. You can pop it up, you can add detail around with the frame or something like that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video featuring Botanical Bounty stamp set and how I use a watercoloring technique to enhance flowers, especially watercolor inspired stamps, and how you can use those watercolors just with re-inkers that you have on hand, and just to add the depth and dimension to flowers that we see in nature around us and the botanicals. Thanks so much for watching this Saturday's showcase featuring Botanical Bounty. For Paper Tray Ink, I'm Ashley Newell. See you next time. Bye.